It was a quiet day at St. Catherine Convent, where Sister Isabel, known for her unwavering calm and devotion, spent her time in prayer and service. But her peaceful routine would soon be interrupted. Standing at the convent door was a man out of place. Victor Aldridge, a millionaire renowned for his extravagant bets and eccentric lifestyle. Dressed in an expensive suit, he carried an air of arrogance that contrasted sharply with the convent's tranquility. "Good afternoon," he said with a confident smile. "My name is Victor Aldridge. Perhaps you've heard of me." Sister Isabel had heard the name, but knew little about his fame or fortune. Yet, when their eyes met, she sensed his visit was no ordinary one. And she was right. Victor Aldridge was no stranger to the spotlight. His name frequently graced the tabloids, often linked to his extravagant parties, high-stakes wagers, and eccentric lifestyle. But Isabel's life could not have been more different. While Victor thrived in luxury, Isabel had lived a quiet, humble life at the St. Catherine Convent. Her faith had always been her guide, and it was from that faith, not wealth or external symbols, that she drew her strength. So, when Victor arrived with a challenge, he expected Isabel to waver, to hesitate. With a slight smirk, he proposed a test of her faith and principles. "I want to see if your way of life is truly as unshakable as people say," he said, leaning back with confidence. "I propose that you spend 3 days at my villa. No habit, no religious symbols, just you, living like an ordinary person." Isabel listened carefully, her heart calm and steady. She didn't flinch at the challenge. Instead, she looked Victor in the eyes and asked, "And what is the purpose of this challenge, Mr. Aldridge?" Victor's eyes gleamed with a hint of pride. "If you can maintain your integrity for 3 days, I'll donate 1 million euros to your charitable cause." The sum was enormous. Isabel knew how much good could come from such a donation. The convent could expand its work, helping hundreds of people in need. But there was more to this challenge than just the money. It would mean stepping away from the habit that symbolized her faith, her very identity. She paused for a moment, contemplating the deeper implications. After a moment of quiet reflection, Isabel responded with serene strength. "It is not the habit that defines a nun, but the commitment to God and to others. I accept your challenge, but not to prove anything to you. I do it for the people who would benefit from that donation." Victor nodded, a little surprised by her composed acceptance. He had expected her to question, to struggle. But instead, she had accepted with grace, her integrity unwavering. He was impressed, but also intrigued. This challenge would turn out to be far more than he had anticipated. The next day, Isabel arrived at Victor's villa, a place as grand and luxurious as she had imagined. Everything about it was flawless, from the perfectly trimmed hedges to the pristine marble floors. Yet, amidst all the wealth and beauty, nothing impressed Isabel more than the challenge she had already accepted within her heart. Victor greeted her with a playful smile. "No habit today, Sister Isabel? I suppose it's just Isabel, right?" Isabel's serene smile never wavered. "You can call me whatever you like. My faith doesn't change with the name." Victor led her to a lavish room, where a wardrobe full of fine clothes awaited her. "These have been chosen just for you," he said, his tone laced with mockery. "I want you to feel comfortable." Isabel took in the sight of the extravagant outfits, but chose a simple long dress. As she gazed at the clothes, she realized this wasn't just about what she wore. It was a test of her inner strength. It wasn't the appearance that mattered. It was what she carried inside her heart. The first activity of the day was breakfast with some of Victor's wealthy, influential friends. Over croissants and coffee, they quickly began to probe Isabel's beliefs. "Isn't it hard to live without the pleasures of the world?" one guest asked, leaning forward with a smirk. "Don't you ever feel trapped by your vows?" Without hesitation, Isabel replied, "My life is normal to me because it's the one I've chosen. The rules I follow aren't a burden. They're a way to love and serve others." Victor observed her carefully, eager to catch a sign of weakness. But there was none. Isabel answered every question with grace, her calm unbroken by the opulence around her. Despite the extravagant surroundings and probing questions, her faith remained her foundation. The next morning, the villa's beauty felt even more overwhelming, but Isabel remained focused on her mission. The luxurious surroundings, the grandeur of it all, did not distract her. Victor, amused by her unshaken resolve, decided to take her to a high-end fashion boutique. Surely, you could wear something more elegant, he teased, holding up a stunning black dress. Something that reflects the life you're leading here. Isabel calmly ran her fingers over the fabric, smiling gently. It's beautiful, but the beauty of a dress doesn't depend on how much it costs or how it looks. It depends on how it's worn. Victor was intrigued. He had expected her to be swayed by such luxuries, but Isabel remained unaffected. Her poise, unshaken by the allure of wealth and opulence, only deepened his curiosity. He couldn't quite figure her out. Later, at a lavish lunch with more of Victor's guests, the conversation turned personal. Isabel, still in her simple dress, found herself at the center of their probing questions. "Sister Isabel," one woman asked, sipping her wine, "don't you ever long for earthly pleasures? Fine wine, beautiful clothes, an evening spent with good company?" Isabel's voice remained calm, her smile never fading. "No, I appreciate simplicity. I find company every day in my service to others." Victor, watching her closely, couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt. He had tried to expose a weakness, to provoke a crack in her serene facade, but Isabel's words had only reinforced her strength. Her sense of peace, grounded in something far deeper than material wealth, left him questioning his own assumptions. The next morning, the villa's beauty felt even more overwhelming, its grandeur almost too much to take in. Marble floors, gleaming chandeliers, and the immaculate perfection of everything surrounding her. It was a far cry from the simplicity and tranquility of the convent. Yet, Isabel remained unfazed, her focus unbroken. She wasn't here for the luxury or the opulence. She was here for a reason: her faith and the promise she had made to help others. Victor, amused by her unshaken resolve, decided to test her further. He took her to a high-end fashion boutique, expecting that the temptation of lavish, designer clothing would finally cause a crack in her calm exterior. "Surely, you could wear something more elegant," he teased, holding up a stunning black dress, the kind of outfit that would turn heads at any gala. "Something that reflects the life you're leading here." Isabel didn't flinch. She calmly ran her fingers over the soft fabric of the dress, the deep black silk catching the light. She smiled gently, as if the dress had no power over her. "It's beautiful, but the beauty of a dress doesn't depend on how much it costs or how it looks. It depends on how it's worn." Victor's eyebrow arched in surprise. This was not the reaction he expected. He had assumed that a woman who had spent her life in modesty would be enchanted by the luxurious world he offered. But Isabel remained unaffected, serene as ever. The elegant clothes, the glittering store, the rich atmosphere, all of it was just external. Isabel's strength came from something far deeper. Later, they sat down for a lavish lunch with more of Victor's friends, a group accustomed to indulgence and excess. The table was set with fine china, glasses of expensive wine, and platters of gourmet food. Isabel, in her simple dress, found herself at the center of the conversation. "Sister Isabel," one woman asked, taking a delicate sip of her wine, "don't you ever long for earthly pleasures? Fine wine, beautiful clothes, an evening spent with good company?" The woman's tone was playful, but there was an edge to it, perhaps a hint of disbelief that someone like Isabel could truly live without desiring the things that most people craved. Isabel's response was calm and steady, like the ripple of a still pond. "No," she said softly, "I appreciate simplicity. I find company every day in my service to others." Her words were not boastful. There was no attempt to judge or elevate herself. She was simply speaking her truth. In that simple answer, Isabel conveyed the depth of her inner peace, something Victor couldn't quite grasp. While he had expected her to be swayed by the luxurious surroundings or the allure of worldly pleasures, Isabel remained grounded in the principles she had built her life upon. Victor felt something stir inside him, a flicker of doubt he hadn't anticipated. He had tried to expose a weakness, to catch her off guard, but all he had found was an unwavering strength. Isabel's words had only reinforced her calm determination, her focus on what truly mattered. She wasn't just enduring this challenge for the sake of it. She was living it as a testament to her values, and she wasn't going to be swayed by the surface distractions. As the conversation continued, Victor's mind was no longer on the game he had set up. Instead, he was watching Isabel, trying to understand how she could be so serene in a world of excess. He had always believed that wealth and luxury were the ultimate goals in life, that they were the measures of success and happiness. But Isabel was showing him something entirely different. Perhaps it wasn't the possessions, the clothes, or the lavish experiences that made life meaningful. Perhaps it was something much simpler, something he had been missing for a long time. As the lunch ended and the guests slowly departed, Victor couldn't shake the feeling that Isabel had won. She hadn't proven anything to him, but she had shown him something far more powerful than any bet or challenge. She had shown him the strength that comes from living with purpose and conviction. For the first time in a long while, Victor felt a quiet sense of uncertainty. The world he had known, the world of opulence and excess, suddenly seemed less fulfilling than it had before. Isabel, meanwhile, simply smiled and continued her day with the same grace she had carried from the start. She hadn't needed to change anything about herself to fit into this world. Her true strength was in remaining exactly who she was, no matter what challenge lay ahead. On the final day, the atmosphere at the villa had shifted. Victor, who had been so sure of his challenge, now seemed quieter, more introspective. Isabel's calm and unwavering presence had started to erode his once unshakable certainty. The wealth, status, and luxury he had always valued, were they really the keys to happiness after all? Isabel, however, remained as serene as ever. She had never wavered, and nothing about the surroundings could distract her from her purpose. Over breakfast, Victor, perhaps for the first time, allowed himself to express the doubt that had been growing in him. "I didn't expect us to get to this point," he confessed, his voice softer than before. "I thought you'd crack, but you seem even stronger than when you arrived." Isabel smiled gently, her eyes reflecting a quiet wisdom. "Strength doesn't come from the absence of difficulties," she said, "but from the faith that sustains us." After breakfast, they took a walk through the villa's lush gardens. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers, but Victor's mind was far from the beauty around him. As they strolled, he began to open up, something he had never done before. "I used to believe in something greater," he admitted, his tone heavy. "But then life taught me that nothing is free. Everything has a price, and happiness is an illusion." Isabel listened patiently, offering no judgment, only quiet understanding. "Perhaps you've mistaken happiness for satisfaction," she said softly. "Happiness can't be bought, Victor. It's a gift we receive when we learn to look beyond ourselves." Victor was silent for a long time. Her words hung in the air, and they struck him more deeply than he could have anticipated. In all his years of chasing wealth and success, no one had ever spoken to him like this. What Isabel had said was simple, yet it shook him to his core. For the first time, he wondered if the life he had built, driven by external things, had been leading him further from what he truly sought. The question lingered in his mind as they continued walking, his path no longer so certain. At dinner that night, the atmosphere had shifted completely. Gone were the teasing and the challenges. Instead, there was a quiet, reflective air as the two shared dessert in the soft candlelight. Victor, breaking the silence, finally asked, "Do you think this challenge had any meaning?" Isabel's answer was calm and simple, as always. "Yes, not because I proved anything, but because you've started asking yourself questions. That's the first step toward change." Victor sat back in his chair, his mind racing. He had spent his entire life believing that money could solve everything. Luxury, status, power, those were the things that mattered. But now, sitting across from Isabel, he realized how wrong he had been. For the first time, he questioned his own values, the things he had worked so hard to accumulate. It wasn't the wealth or the luxuries that had given him purpose, but the people and moments he had overlooked in his relentless pursuit. Isabel's quiet strength had shown him that change wasn't about acquiring more. It was about understanding what truly matters. As they finished their meal, the evening felt less like an end and more like the beginning of something new for Victor. The questions Isabel had planted in his mind weren't going away. They were just the start of a deeper journey. The morning sun peeked through the curtains as Isabel gathered her things to leave. Victor, ever so composed, handed her a thick envelope. "Here's the 1 million euros as promised. I hope you'll use it to do good," he said, his voice steady. Isabel paused for a moment, taking the envelope but smiling gently. "Thank you, Victor. But remember, this isn't just a gift for others. It's also an opportunity for you to start living differently." A few weeks later, Isabel received a letter from Victor. She unfolded it carefully, her curiosity piqued. The letter detailed how he had begun to fund charitable projects and even visited the local convent to better understand how he could help the community. He expressed his gratitude, writing, "I don't know if I'm ready to change completely, but I know I want to try. And that's thanks to you." Isabel smiled as she read the words. It wasn't the habit she had worn or the challenge she had given that had made the difference. It was the message she had carried with her all along. The message of love, compassion, and faith. These were the true gifts that could change lives. True strength, Isabel knew, doesn't come from appearance or wealth. It's found in staying true to one's values and using them to inspire others. Even the most closed-off hearts can open when they encounter the light of compassion and faith. Sometimes, all it takes is a simple challenge to spark a transformation. In this moment, Isabel realized the seeds of change had been planted, and they were already beginning to grow.